1, 2, test. 1, 2, test. There we go. Hello, everybody. And welcome to Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit. The podcast. Or whatever. Yeah. What day is it? Wednesday, the 24th of July. It's almost the weekend. Sunday. What's happening on Sunday, people? Armagh are playing in the All-Ireland final against Galway. We're going to win the Sam Maguire again. Can't wait. So excited. The town looks amazing. It is covered in bunting and flags. Walls are being painted. Curbstones are being painted. It's just amazing. It is fantastic. Love to see it. And I do think we're going to win. I really do. I really, really do think we're going to win. It's going to be amazing. There'll be fucking suicides if they don't. I reckon. But yeah, it's all good. Near North Lurgan up there, just across the road of Kewilkie Estate, and there's just bunting everywhere. Like, just crisscrossing every road. It's gorgeous. I love to see it. It's amazing. So, and you couldn't get a ticket for that match for love nor money. Maybe love, but definitely no money. Yeah, can't wait. I think we're going to do it. I think we can. Galway are the favourites with the bookies. They did do a number on Dublin, to be fair, but we've already beat Galway this year. But I think we can do it. I really do. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that. So what am I going to talk about? We're going to talk about Israel and the Olympics. What's happening there? Is Israel being banned from the Olympics? Oh, are they fuck? We're going to, a little update on Lough Neagh. What's going on there? Your boy made the TV last week. And by the way, I'll talk a bit more about that when I show you the thing. Kamala Harris is now running for president against DJT himself, the big orange palooka. And we're going to talk about Gaza because it is the moral issue of our times. And it sort of connects all these, the Olympics, obviously, Gaza, Kamala Harris, those three things are connected. Yeah, so I did show you the video. I showed you the video last week, didn't I? Of her just doing the unburdened thing, right? We did all that, so you know who she is. Well, I'll tell you a bit more about who she is and what she is. She's just a creature of the swamp, as you would expect from American politics. So yeah, so there we go. Let's get to it. And as always, if you want to follow me, follow the project, you can do that on Patreon. £1 a month, one tier only. Helps me keep the lights on. You get the audio and the video versions. You can download those ad-free. Listen to them as your little heart desires. So, and then of course Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I think I'm going to get rid of the Instagram. I don't really use it much, and I've got too many social media accounts. It's a pain in the arse. So I think I'm just going to knock it back to Twitter. But anyway, so there we go. So we're going to talk about... Why did that not load? Israel and why it needs to be banned from the Olympics, which it's not being, as you well know. Sorry, I'm trying to load in an article here for you, and it's not happening. There we go. Don't know what happened there. So it's just an opinion, really. It's just a paragraph from the Middle East Monitor. And it says, this is dated 23rd of July. So that's yesterday. So, A global campaign has been launched to have Israel banned from participating in the 2024 Paris Olympic Games because of its genocidal war against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The pro-Palestine activists have launched the hashtag Ban Israel from Paris Olympics on social media to put pressure on the organisers to prevent the participation of Israeli athletes in the Games scheduled to start on the 26th of July this weekend. Celebrating the human values of the Olympics contradicts Israel's oppressive and genocidal practices against Palestinians, said the campaigners. How do we celebrate human values while human rights are being brutally violated? The Olympics without Israel is the demand of everyone who believes in justice and humanity, they added. European countries, including France and Switzerland, have witnessed demonstrations in front of the headquarters of the IOC, demanding that the Israeli Federation delegation should be banned from the Paris Olympics. Now, this is the rub. Preventing Russia and Belarus from the Olympics previously and allowing Israel to participate this year is a clear use of double standards, said campaigners. French Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin, meanwhile, has said his country will provide 24-hour protection for Israeli athletes during the Games, which will begin in Paris on Friday. He made his comment after leftist MP Thomas Portes said that the Israeli delegation is not welcome in Paris. I'll show you that video in a second. In January, French MP, I'm not saying that, called on the IOC to prevent Israel, as it did with Russia, from participating in the 2024 Paris Olympics because of a genocidal war it is waging in the Gaza Strip. In May, the Palestinian Football Association submitted a similar request to the IOC and football's governing body, FIFA, which said it is postponing until the decision they're going to have to make until the 31st of August. So there we go, and now there's more. So that's the thing, right? So Russia got banned from the Olympics 3 seconds after it invaded Ukraine, didn't it? I seen there in the news a moment ago. It was on Sky News Sports. It's only mainstream news I watch. A British show jumper has been banned from the Olympics because she was videoed mistreating a horse in training from a video that has just surfaced from 4 years ago. So someone was videoed mistreating a horse 4 years ago and they get banned from the Olympics. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be banned. I'm just saying, I didn't see what she did, so I'm assuming it must have been pretty bad. I'm just drawing the contrast between the two situations, right? So, she gets banned for mistreating a horse. Russia invades Ukraine and immediately gets banned. Notably, Russia wasn't in the European Football Championships, which just finished a couple of weeks ago. Israel is literally committing a genocide right now. Right now, today. The International Court of Justice has called it that. They've said that. They've issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and his deputies. The Lancet report, as we know, I read it. We were talking about that last week. Has now said that the estimate death toll, which has stalled at 36,000, the reason it stalled at 36,000 is because the people that do the counting have been killed. The Lancet Medical Journal, the most respected and oldest peer-reviewed medical journal in the world, the daddy of them all, has said that the death toll is, their estimate death toll is more likely to be closer to 186,000 dead, not 36,000 dead. And people are saying that even that is an underestimation, because the Lancet uses the multiplier of 4 times the direct deaths. So someone killed in a war zone, then you have a multiplier effect between 3 and 15 indirect deaths. That's the way they work it. So they use the multiplier of 4, which is a very conservative number. If they put it in the middle, it would be closer to 7 or 8, which would put that 186,000 number in the basement of the actual dead. But nonetheless, a horrifying figure. I'm sure you'll agree. So, Israel is committing a genocide. International Court of Justice says it. Various governments around the world say it. Everybody can see it. Everybody knows it's happening. They're still going to the Olympics. This is disgusting. It is a clear double standard, and it's also an example, if you needed one, that any credibility that any Western politician thinks that they have whenever they use phrases like Western civilization or the rules-based order and things like that, they're blown out of the water now. They're gone. That's gone forever. They'll never be able to be used again. Not without being laughed out of the room. Because it was clearly a joke to begin with. But this current genocide that's taking place in Gaza is the cherry on that particular cake. So, back to the Olympics thing. Now, this is from a publication, AA.com. I think this is a Turkish English language publication. So it says here, protests and push to ban Israel. Paris Olympics will be like no other, says ex-NBA player. The decision to allow Israel's participation in the 2024 Olympics highlights hypocrisy within international organisations. Former NBA player Tariq Abdul-Wahad believes. Now, this was originally published on the 29th of May, and it was updated on the 31st of May. So, the Olympics, the world's largest sporting event, has always been intertwined with politics, often marked by protests and boycotts since the game's inception in 1896. During the 1968 Olympics in Mexico, US sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos protested racial injustice at the men's 200-metre award ceremony, standing barefoot on the podium and raising a single black-gloved fist during the national anthem. 22 African countries boycotted the 76 Olympics in Montreal to protest New Zealand's participation due to its rugby team's tour of apartheid South Africa. During the 1980 Moscow Olympics, the US led a boycott to protest the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Ha! That one. Wow. It's mad when you think about it. Resulting in 65 nations refusing to participate, while 80 countries still sent athletes to compete. And again, just to highlight the double standard and hypocrisy, the US invaded Afghanistan and occupied it for 20 years. And they went to all of these competitions. They never got banned. They never got boycotted for doing it. They should have, but they didn't. In response to the US-led boycott in 1980, 14 Eastern Bloc countries led by the USSR boycotted the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, California. The 2024 Olympics, much like the Games during the Cold War, will be entangled in a political agenda, though a different one. The Summer Olympics in Paris will undoubtedly be overshadowed by the ongoing massacre in Gaza, where Israel has killed over 36,000 people since October the 7th. Now, the Lancet report came out since after this article was published. That number has, and I'm going to refer to it always going forward, of 186,000 people. It's not going to be an Olympics like any other Olympics, that's for sure. A former NBA player, Tariq Abdul-Wahid, told Anadolu about the importance of drawing attention to genocide in Gaza by athletes during the games, adding, "This is going to be very different, and I hope the athletes are going to voice their opinion. I hope that activism will be there to raise awareness. If Israel is not allowed to participate, that will raise awareness. If activists decide to voice their opinion there, that will raise awareness." So anything that can raise awareness to this traumatic issue is going to be helpful. Highlighting his affiliation with Athletes for Ceasefire, a group uniting athletes in their call to end the Israeli onslaught and emphasizing the role athletes can play in spreading this message. Abdul Wahid stressed the significance of taking action on a platform that would have the world's attention through the duration of the event. So if there's going to be protests, I'm all for it. It's almost scary to think a lot of people are not aware as we are, not as aware as we are, he said, pointing out this makes it all the more important to raise awareness through the act of protesting. Abdul Wahid, who began his NBA career with the Sacramento Kings in 1997, played for the Kings, Orlando Magic, Denver Nuggets, and Dallas Mavericks until 2003. He pointed to the 1968 protests by US sprinters Smith and Carlos. He emphasised that the US had a culture of politics in sport. "I'm sure they're going to find ways to express their views, and if it helps bring people to a better understanding of what's going on, then it's perfect." Abdul Wahid also added that athletes could speak up on social media and must find ways to shine a spotlight on what's happening in Gaza, to show that this is a genocide, to show that these are human beings getting butchered and murdered. Because whether we like it or not, athletes have a platform. And this is why the dark side of this situation do not want athletes to be involved, because they know that people listen to athletes. See, what he's getting at there is you're going to hear from, as he referred to, the dark side. The talking heads in the media. Like, remember that young fella last week when I showed you the video of him at the Euros? The disappointed England fan being interviewed, and he said something about, yeah, it was a real shame we lost Free Palestine, and the reporter couldn't get the microphone away from him quickly enough, saying, "Oh, we don't need that around here," that sort of thing. This is what we're going to get. So these athletes will protest. A lot of them will. And you're going to hear the argument coming back saying things like, "Oh, politics has no place in sport." International sport is politics. Soft power. They're one and the same. There's no difference. Right? We need to understand that. So this is what countries do instead of going to war. That's what international sport is. It's much more civilised than going to war, I'm sure you'll agree. So that an athlete should just go for the cornflake box endorsement and shut the fuck up and never mention an ongoing genocide is ridiculous. It's also the same for music. We hear that a lot in music. "I wish you'd keep politics out of your music." Our music is politics. It always has been. Sure, I'm talking about my own band. We sing about, shaking your ass and having a good time. But there's a lot of politics in our music as well. It's not just as obvious. We wouldn't be as out there as Idols and all that sort of stuff. We're never going to be. Because I do think it's important that you get to shake your ass. I really do. It's okay to do that too. But music is politics. Everything is politics. You can't remove politics from anything. If you had this conversation with a couple of my people before profit party comrades not so long ago, people that say, "Oh, I'm not really into politics," so you're not into your children's education, you're not into receiving a decent, you're not into having a decent healthcare system. You're not into these things. What do you mean you're not into you're not into politics? What do you mean by that? Do you know what I'm saying? It's all politics. Everything is politics. And this issue about Gaza, the thing that's going on with Gaza, is the moral issue of our time. You can't not have an opinion on it. And your opinion must be it's wrong. You can even starting to see certain figures like Piers Morgan and people like that. They're starting to come around now. They're recognizing the horror of what's going on. They're still saying shit like, "Do you condemn Hamas?" And again, once again, I reiterate, no, I do fucking not. If I'm ever asked, that's what I say. No, I don't. How can I condemn Hamas? I want Hamas to win. But even those figures are starting to come around. They're starting to acknowledge the horrors. They'll do it in their milk toasty way. They won't fully come around to where I am, where you are, where we are. They won't come around to where the vast majority of people are in their opinions on this subject. But they're starting to come around. And the reason that they're coming around is because the weight of evidence against Israel is so overwhelming that even those guys with their bubble, the bubble that they live in, spectacles on, even those guys with understanding who pays their salary is, even those guys can't not acknowledge what's going on. So we're going to see a lot of protests in these Olympics. And I, for one, I don't know whether I'm going to watch the Olympics. I was for boycotting it, but I probably, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'll be honest. I was really looking forward. I love sport. I love athletics. I love everything. I love all sports, and I can watch sport and TV all day long. So I'm going to bone up a little bit more and see what the crack is with this campaign, and then I'll make my decision. But if I have to boycott it, I'll be very sad about that. But fuck it, you know, what are you going to do? It's the right thing to do. It's no sacrifice for me at all, really, is it? I mean, just, you know, I'm not going to watch the Olympics, so well, boo-hoo, whatever you want to do. But I will keep you posted about these athletes that do protest. I'm assuming that they're going to turn their backs on the Israeli athletes. I'm going to show you some of those guys too. That's the other thing. I'm going to show you an article about. I'm going to show you give you some information about who these athletes are for you to represent as Israel. As an athlete, you have to have served in the ADF. So that's who these people are. It's not like any other country, or, you know, it's not like here where you don't have to be in the army. You don't have to have committed atrocities to serve your country or to represent your country at sport. In Israel, that's not the case. So, back to this article here. Hypocritical international organisations is the headline of the next paragraph, last paragraph. Abdul Wahid also pointed out that when Moscow launched its military operation in Ukraine, Russian athletes were banned are now competing under a neutral banner, not their countries. So when you see the neutral banner, I can't remember what it's called, and then they have like a refugees. A country representing refugees in general as well, but they have a neutral banner. I don't know what that flag is. I've seen it. I think it's a little blue thing. Those are Russian athletes that can't compete as Russians. So you can see the hypocrisy. We've reached a point now where countries who do this have to be punished some way, somehow. I mean, there has to be consequences. If there are not going to be consequences at the International Court of Justice, at least we need consequences in the realms of sport. Emphasising that a country's representation in sports is a privilege that should be given freely, he said, "I'm sorry to say, but the country of Israel has long since passed the opportunity to have this privilege. Israel's assault in Gaza has come to a point that it is disgusting and not even describable, almost beyond genocide. If you want to compete in an international competition that is recognised by international organisations, you have to respect international law," he said. Russia did not follow the law. Their athletes got banned. Let's not be hypocrites here. Let's treat everybody the same. Russia and Belarusian athletes were banned following Russia's war on Ukraine in February 2022. The International Olympic Committee ruled the athletes from these countries will be allowed to compete as neutrals, conditional on them competing without their country's flags, emblems, or anthems. However, Israel faces no threat to its Olympic status ahead of the Games. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach said in March, despite Tel Aviv being nearly 8 months into its war in Gaza. Vast swathes of Gaza now lay in ruins amid a crippling blockade of food, clean water, and medicine. Israel stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice, which in its latest ruling has ordered Tel Aviv to immediately halt its operation in Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians had sought refuge from the war before it was invaded on May the 6th. Excuse me. If it's the decision they go with, and we don't manage to put enough pressure on them to change that decision, it's an absolute shame. Abdul Wahid stressed. It's an absolute shame. It's a shame, but it shows how hypocritical the international organisations are, whether the ones who have to deal with the law or the ones who have to deal with sports or its situation today puts us face to face with our responsibilities, and to these organisations face to face with their responsibilities, he added. I hope that they will reverse that decision, because if we don't have rules within the world, what do we have? We have nothing. It's a free fall. Anybody can do anything and not face consequences. And that's it in a nutshell. That's exactly it. He's got it absolutely right there, and that's the point. The point is, the point is, what are the rules? Our international rules-based order. So there's the video of the French politician Thomas Portes. Now, I don't know who this guy is, so if anybody, if he's a right-wing guy or whatever it is, I don't care. He's right. You know what I mean? I don't know who he is. And here he is saying, I'll just put the sound up so you can hear it, but I'll have to read the subtitles for you. So, oh, here we go. We are a few days away from an international rally that will be held in Paris, which are the Olympic Games. And I am here to say that no, the Israeli delegation is not welcome in Paris. The Israeli athletes are not welcome at the Olympic Games in Paris. And we must use this rally, all the levers that we have, to create mobilisations. So there we go. Now that went viral, and it created quite a stir. And then there's the logo, the Olympic rings covered in blood. Those of you that can't see this clearly, you can go and watch this on. Oh, jeez, I didn't even put it on the browser. Sorry, I'll do it again. There we go. So there's it there. I forgot to put it on the screen for those of you. So I'll not go through all that again. So there's the video, right? Okay, he's outside the Eiffel Tower. Very cool. And there's the logo, the Olympic rings dripping in blood, which is true. And again, this is the whole point. So you're going to hear people saying athletes shouldn't get involved in politics whenever the inevitable athletes will protest. Some of them will protest, right? Be it turning their backs on Israeli athletes, dragging out Palestinian flags from their pockets, things like that when they're on the podiums getting their medals, etc. And you're going to hear people say these athletes shouldn't get involved in politics. This is sport, blah, 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 blah. As I've said already, sport is politics by another means. It's soft power, that's what it is, among other things. But if ask those same people, then, are you okay with Russia getting banned for invading Ukraine? And if you get an opportunity to, that's your comeback. If anybody says these people shouldn't make these protests, then you say because sports shouldn't be involved in politics, then you say, well, then Russia should be at these games, and Belarus, right? We can't be hypocrites. And oh no, well, not Russia. Yeah, you fucking liar, you fucking hypocrite, fuck you. So here's the a picture of, oh, what happened there? I'll show you. Sorry, I'll have a load of stuff teed up for you. There it is, sir. Sorry, it just skipped away. Don't know why. So there's a picture of the Israeli athletes. I'll show you that one actually on Instagram. So this is Team Israel. Andy Mures and Peter Palchik are the flag bearers of Team Israel at the Paris 2024 Olympics. A male and a female. I don't know who they are. Olympics opening ceremony. # gender equality. Oh, isn't that class? Gender equality. There we go. Gender equality. Committing a genocide, but gender equality at the Olympics. They're so fucking dead on. This makes me sick to my stomach because it's such a transparent crock of shit. Fucking gender equality. Are you kidding me? Gender equality whilst committing a genocide. You couldn't fucking make it up. And you know what? People are going to fall for it. People are going to go, yeah, this is great. Like, we're going to talk about Kamala Harris in a minute. First black female to be vice president. What? What the? She's a fucking monster. The things that she's done in her career, I would argue that they're worse than what a white man can get away with. Because her racial identity is being used as a smokescreen, as if she's a good person. Because if she's black, she can't be bad. She's a female, she can't be a bad person. Right? This is some culture war bullshit. So there's a couple of comments under that post. They ban Russian and Belarus athletes whose only crime was representing these countries, but actual genociders are all good. Make it make sense. Right? Question mark. Right? Now, what the poster is referring to there, these two fucking wankers that you're seeing on your screen. Oh. Where is the post? Where does it? Oh, it's gone away. I'll have to show you that on bloody Twitter. Check this out. There they are. There's Peter Palchik. So this guy here on the right, fucking chud-looking prick. From me to you, with pleasure. Hamas, ISIS, Israel at war. And there's a picture of, I don't know what they are, missiles, I guess, rockets, with the Israeli flag, and he signed it. So this guy is an actual participant in an ongoing genocide as determined by the International Court of Justice and anybody with a functioning cortex. And here he is on his own Twitter account signing a bomb because he's in the IOF, the Israeli Occupation Forces, and he gets to go to the Olympics. How does that work? How the fuck does that work? So he's contributing to the genocide. The Russian athletes are not. You don't have to be in the IOF, or you don't have to be in the Russian army to compete as a Russian international athlete. You do have to have served in the IOF to be an Israeli athlete. Can you get the difference? You understand what I'm saying? And here's the final post on that. This is from an Instagram account called Mohams. I follow this guy or girl. I don't know who this is. Breaking: the Olympic Committee has cleared Israel to compete in the Paris Olympics, while FIFA announces they are delaying their decision on suspending Israel until after the Olympics, which is in stark contrast to when the Olympic Committee and FIFA immediately banned Russia from competing for their war with Ukraine. Another stark contrast is that between Israel and Russia, Israel is the only one classified as an apartheid state that illegally steals land while plausibly committing genocide, as per the highest international court on earth. So there we go. There's your rules-based order. There's your international rules-based order. That's what we're talking about. What do you think of that? Fucking unreal, isn't it? It really is. It's staggering stuff. And that's what I started this bit with, this segment with. The West and its credibility is completely spent over this. Israel is finished. The narrative that they were able to mine for decades, that they were the victim, that they were the most moral army in the world and all this sort of shit, that since before the Nakba, is not working. It's gone now. That narrative is all finished. They can't use that anymore. They're done. So there we go. We're going to end that and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so let's move on. Next, I'll do Kamala Harris. Well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do Kamala Harris. You get what I'm saying? So, who is Kamala Harris? Let me just shut down a couple of tabs here. I have half the internet opened on my browser. There we go. So Kamala Harris, for those of you that don't know, is, you know that Joe Biden has resigned, or said that he's not going to run for election, right? Against his Trumpness. And his vice president, Joe Biden's vice president, is Kamala Harris. So she's stepped up. And I think that the reason, and the Democratic Party, being one of the most undemocratic institutions in the fucking world, has basically coronated her as their chosen one. They've anointed her. They didn't go through a Democratic primary, so they never give people an opportunity. They held some sort of a wee internal sham thing, but it's not what you would call democratic. So a democratic process. So here is the erstwhile Robert F. Kennedy, who is still trying to run as the Democratic candidate for president, despite the fact they will never allow him. But here is what he has to say about Kamala Harris. If you haven't heard Robert Kennedy's voice, I'm sure you have. He's got some sort of a speech thing. I don't know what it's all about, but he's a very odd way of speaking, but check it out.
You mentioned Kamala Harris is who you said that the Democratic Party appeared poised to put into that position. You were critical there, obviously, of President Biden's policy. What, if anything, is different? How do you compare yourself to Kamala Harris if she does become the Democratic nominee for president?
Well, I think, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She's a war hawk. The Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit.
Just interject here. RFK is right. The US shouldn't be banging the wars of drum. The drums of war against China. Obviously, the ongoing proxy war, which is what it is in Ukraine, which has cost Ukraine an entire. I mean, the population collapse in Ukraine is actually going on. I saw the numbers the other day. I can't remember them. It's staggering. They've gone from something like 28 million to like 15 million or something like that. It's unbelievable. Obviously, what's going on in Ukraine should be stopped immediately. But RFK is all good with what's going on in Gaza. And that's what he said there, his little qualifier. He said, except where it involves our national security. That's how these Zionists justify what's going on. American Zionists justify what's going on in Gaza as if it affects the US's national security. They have to do this genocide. It's disgusting. But anyway, back to the video.
I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official. She's the author of one of the primary authors of the school to prison pipeline. She kept 5,000 people, despite a Supreme Court order that she released 5,000 prisoners of nonviolent drug crimes who were illegally in California jails. She kept them in there saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. And that's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. She was one of the two leading public officials in California, which now has the worst education system, 49th in education outcomes in the country. 50% of the homeless people in our country are in California, and she was behind those policies. I don't think she has a good, I don't think, in terms of the traditional democratic principles, I don't think she has a credible record.
So, what RFK is referencing there, she was the Attorney General of, I'm going to read you an article actually, just on that. So when she was the attorney, she was so you've got, in the judicial adversarial system that we have, you have a prosecutor and a defender, right? But we know this is the way it works. She prosecutes for the state. So she was the Attorney General, the AG of California. And some of the fucking policies that this woman oversaw and implemented are absolutely horrific. Now check this out. How Kamala Harris fought to keep non-violent prisoners locked up. As Attorney General, she spent years subverting a 2011 Supreme Court ruling requiring the state to reduce its prison population. The overseeing judicial panel nearly found the state in contempt of court. This is serious stuff. Check this out. Senator Kamala Harris, a leading candidate to be Joe Biden's running mate. So this article is from 2020. This is now, I found this on Twitter after the author, Alexander Salmon, reposted the link because now she's been announced that she's going to be the Democratic Party's nominee for president and the challenger to Donald Trump. This article has now since resurfaced and is going a bit viral. So Senator Kamala, so this is why it's dated, but it's referencing things that happened in 2020. Okay, so but it'll give you a lot of context. Senator Joe Biden's running mate, repeatedly and openly defied US Supreme Court orders to reduce overcrowding in Californian prisons while serving as the state's Attorney General, according to the legal documents reviewed by the Prospect, that's the publisher of this article. Working in tandem with Governor Jerry Brown, Harris and her legal team filed motions that were condemned by judges and legal experts as obstructionist, bad faith, and nonsensical, at one point even suggesting that the Supreme Court lacked the jurisdiction to order a reduction in California's prison population. Now, and just another little addendum. The United States has 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prison population. The United States jails more of its own citizens than any other country in the world by percentage of population and by number. The United States has more by number of its own citizens in jail than China, despite the fact that China has a much larger population. Land of the free, my ass. Those guys aren't free. It also, I can't remember what the statistics are, but in relation to your race being, what effect it has on you ending up in jail, it's massive. So like something like 6 in 10 black men are in or have served jail time. It's massive. It's just a massive human rights violations, if you ask me. But back to the article. The intransigence of this legal work resulted in the presiding judges in the case giving serious consideration to holding the state in contempt of court. Observers worried that the behaviour of Harris's office had undermined the variability of federal judges to enforce their legal orders at the state level, pushing the federal court system to the brink of constitutional crisis. This extreme resistance to a Supreme Court ruling was done to prevent the release of fewer than 5,000 non-violent offenders whom multiple courts had cleared as presenting next to no risk of recidivism or threat to public safety. So what is a non-violent offender? Caught, but before weed was legalised, you're caught with weed. Crack cocaine. Joe Biden authored and signed a bill that made it basically made a difference between crack cocaine and powdered cocaine, right? And if you got caught with the former, crack cocaine, you were automatically sent to jail. The judge had no choice. It's in the statutes. This, you get caught with this, you will do this. I think it was 5 years, automatic. Despite the fact that his son is a crack addict and hasn't served any jail time, that's a story for another time. Another example of extreme hypocrisy and, I would say, corruption. But so these non-violent offences, people are being kept in jail. What's a non-violent offence? Car theft, burglary. Now, these are serious crimes and all the rest of it, but they're still what they are. They're still non-violent offences. And despite lower courts determining, right up to Supreme Court level, which is the ultimate court, determining that these people should be kept or should be released, Harris's office kept them in jail. Why did she keep them in jail? We're going to get to that. You won't fucking believe it. It is unreal. You heard a little bit of it there from RFK. Wait till you hear this. Despite a straightforward directive from the Supreme Court to identify prisoners for release over a 2-year period, upholding a 2009 ruling that mandated the same action over the same timeline, the state spent the majority of that period seesawing back and forth between dubious legal filings and flagrant disregard. So that means that they were stalling. They just didn't comply with the ruling and stalled. And they were stalling for a reason. By early 2013, it became clear that the state had no intention to comply, leading to a series of surprisingly combative exchanges. Combative, yep. While Harris's ultimately unsuccessful presidential campaign saw questions raised about her criminalisation of truancy and her tough-on-crime reputation during her time as San Francisco's district attorney, before I'll just put meat on that bone for you, she criminalised truancy. So if your child didn't go to school, you went to jail as a parent. She did this and is proud of this. I've seen the videos of her talking about this where she is completely justifying this. Your child doesn't go to school, you go to jail. Now, fair enough, children should go to school. I don't think putting their parents in jail is the solution to that, though. And there are also extenuating circumstances as to why certain people not don't go to school, can't go to school. Financial reasons. I heard one person saying, you have to drive to school. The girl goes, I haven't got a car. There's no public transport. I can't send a child to school. They literally can't do it. Ends up in jail. Right? The solution is not putting people in jail. The solution to very little is putting people in jail. My thoughts on prison and jailing is it is a burden of our society. I understand we have to have jails, but we have to take this as a serious responsibility. Why have these people ended up in jail? Quite often, you're going to get people that are just bad uns. They're going to end up in jail. They're going to do things that are jailable. Morally wrong, jailable offences. But also, quite often, there are people with addictions and certain societal factors that, if those, we call it social mobility, if there's no opportunity at social mobility, you end up poor and stuck in a strata, and perhaps you turn to crime, or quite often in these cases to drugs, alcohol, and you'll end in under the Kamala Harris regime, you'll end up in jail. Right? So back to the article. As concerns grow about Donald Trump's subversion of the law, he's talking about his. This is 4 years old, this article. So talking about him being dragged through the courts with his lawfare that's being used against him. He, along with the Attorney General, William Barr, is currently defying a Supreme Court ruling by refusing to restart the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. That is to do with the immigrants that are coming in, or were coming in at the time, to the United States. I don't know why the author has drifted off into Donald Trump here. I don't like that. How did Harris's office turn a simple court order to release low-risk prisoners to prevent cruel and unusual punishment into a constitutional fiasco? Federal courts seldom look to prisoner release. It's a remedy of last resort, but California was a unique case with its uniquely awful prison system. At its height, it was stuffed with some 200% of its designed capacity. There were not enough beds or medical personnel, but an extreme excess of bodies. In one prison, 54 prisoners shared a single toilet. Preventable deaths due to substandard and overstretched medical care occurred every 5 to 6 days. Suicidal inmates were locked in telephone booth-sized cages for 24 hours at a time. For nearly 2 decades, Republican and Democrat administrations essentially ignored the problem. Despite constitutional protections for prisoners against cruel and unusual punishment enshrined in the Bill of Rights, finally, in 2009, a federal district court found that no other plausible solution existed for getting the state to conform to a constitutionally reasonable standard than a forced prisoner release. An earlier pledge given before Harris's time to quickly build new prisons was not seen as credible, especially amid the Great Recession and California's limited finances. Again, we're going back to 2008, 2009, right? The district court mandated that the state enact a series of decarceration measures to reduce the prison population to 137.5% of its design capacity within 2 years. The state appealed the district court ruling on May the 23rd, 2011. The Supreme Court found Brown versus Plata, that the Californian prison system was in violation of its prisoners' Eighth Amendment rights. Despite its relatively conservative tilt, the court identified prisoner release as the most effective method for ending the state's constitutional violation in a timely manner. And bearing in mind, you're talking about non-violent prisoners here. The verdict split 5-4, with Conservative Justice Anthony Kennedy joining the court's Liberals, upholding a lower court mandate. Kennedy wrote, "The majority opinion in the case, including an array of gruesome details from inside those prisons, and condemning the state for facilitating needless suffering and death," as he called it. At that point, Kamala Harris had been the state's Attorney General for just over 4 months, representing California as its top legal officer. But the Supreme Court would have to be enacted on her watch. Every 6 months, the state would have to show it had decreased its prison population in compliance with the threshold overseen by the 3-judge district court panel. 167% of the capacity by the end of 2011, 155% by June 2012, finally arriving at the legal target of 137.5% by June 2013. I mean, it's still 137% of capacity, so it's still 1/3, over a third, filled. It's not great. It soon became clear that the state would hold out on complying with the judicial order. 2011 passed with little progress made on the declaration, and so on and so forth. I want to get to the point where by April 2013, just 2 months after the initial deadline to support, California still had 9,636 prisoners. The state submitted a proposal that involved relocating inmates to fire camps to fight wildfires and preventing out-of-state prisoners from being returned. But upon review, the 3-judge panel found that still let California's prisons some 4,170 prisoners over the hard limit. Right, let me just find, this is a massive article. Are we nearly done? No. So I'm just going to see if I can find I want to find this for you. Because I don't want to have to read all this. It's because it's massive. Stay with me. I'm nearly there. Scanning. Harris's use of the anti-desegregation playbook to prevent the release of low-level offenders ultimately failed. Finally, in 2014, the state acceded and the prison population was reduced. This era of Harris's tenure as Attorney General escaped the recent close re-examination of some of the higher-profile cases in her prosecutorial past. During her brief presidential run, a memo from the tail end of this battle resurfaced. In late 2014, lawyers from her office claimed that non-violent offenders needed to stay incarcerated lest they lose bodies for the fire camps in the wildfire-plagued state, as Jackie Kucinich of the Daily Beast reported. Harris quickly disavowed the memo, claiming she had no knowledge of it, telling BuzzFeed News she was shocked by the argument, but it squares firmly with the sort of arguments her office was putting forward for the multiple years preceding it. Let me just have a quick look at that article. So this is the point. So here's Jackie Kucinich. I know this is from the Daily Beast, who are not fucking great, horrible right-wing publication, but this, so we know what she did, but why did she do it? Order to reduce the population of California's overcrowded prisons, lawyers from the then California, we know all this. According to the filings, lawyers for the state said California met benchmarks and argued that if certain potential parolees were given a faster track out of prison, it would negatively affect the prison's labour programs, including one that allowed certain inmates to fight California's wildfires for about $2 a day. Extending 2-for-1 credits to all minimum custody inmates at this time would severely impact fire camp participation, a dangerous outcome while California is in the middle of difficult firefighting season, severe drought. Lawyers for Harris wrote in the filing, noting that the fire camp program required physical fitness in addition to a level of clearance that allowed the felon to be off-site. Not only that, they noted that draining the prisons of minimum custody inmates would deplete the labour force both internally and local communities where low-level non-violent offenders worked for pennies on the dollar, collecting trash and tending to city parks. A federal 3-judge panel ordered both sides to confer. Once we ridiculed and flagged them for that, they changed their tune, but it was initial response, blah, blah, blah. There we go. So, to cut it short, because it's been going on a bit, she kept people in jail, 5,000 of them, in order to provide cheap labour in the prison labour program system. Now, in America, prisons are used for all sorts of things. Like Zippo lighters, for example, they're made by prisoners and things like that. So this is who this woman is. She is a creature of the swamp. She is a political machine. This is what she is. Here is a video of her. And you're going to hear people that she is more, because she's a woman, because she's black, which she, will just show you that in a second, about her race. She's going to be more compassionate. No.
United States commitment. President Biden and
What does she think about Israel and Gaza?
I have been clear. Israel has a right to defend itself, and we will remain steadfast in that conviction. Our defense relationship is critical to both nations, which is why I support the United States' commitment to provide Israel with $38 billion in military assistance over the next decade.
$38 billion? Can't pay prisoners to fucking fight fires, which is a dangerous fucking job. Can't hire more firefighters to do the job. But can give Israel $38 billion. And she did that thing there that RFK did. She did that thing where they said, except where it's in, he was saying about we need to stop fucking trying to start a war with China, and we need to pull out of the proxy war in Ukraine, and we shouldn't be doing wars all around the world, except where it's in our own national interest. That's what they're talking about Gaza. So this genocide is in America's national interest? Their own self-defense? How? In what fucking possible way? So,
refugee camp, do you think that is a legitimate military target, that it's an acceptable?
We are not telling Israel how it should conduct this war, and so I'm not going to speak to that.
Is a refugee camp a legitimate military target? That was the question she was asked right there. I'm not going to tell Israel how to conduct its war. When the fuck does America not run around the world telling everybody else what to do? Uyghur Muslims in China, bollocks, load of shit. Didn't happen. When the fuck how that one got off the ground is stunning to me. There's never been a bit of evidence fucking presented. And since when does America give a fuck about Muslims? They've set fire to the Middle East for the past 30 years. America's been responsible for more Muslims' death than the plague. So that's who Kamala Harris is. She is a creature of the swamp. I'm going to finish with this because it's fucking hilarious. You can see on the screen there, Liz Truss doesn't think that Kamala Harris is qualified to lead a country. And here's a video of her saying it. Now, that's a problem, because if anyone knows anything about not being qualified to lead a country, it's Liz Truss. This poster has said. Check it out.
Many people in this country say, Prime Minister, that we have a problem electing women, and that they extend that to say conservatives will never elect women. Yet you're proof that women can come to power in your country. Of course, Maggie Thatcher is proof of that. Do you think Americans have a problem with women in power?
No, I don't. I think there have been some brilliant American women in politics, but I don't think Kamala Harris is one of them. She was given the specific job of sorting out immigration on the southern border. It is now at crisis point. She has not delivered as vice president, and she's got the job now because of the crazy situation with President Biden retiring at the last minute, even though everybody in America knew that he was not up to the job. So she has got the job. She's got the nomination, or she's about to get the nomination, in what is a very, very bizarre scenario. What I hate is identity politics. We shouldn't care if somebody is an ethnic minority. We shouldn't care if they're a woman. We should be caring about, can they do the job? And
well, you know all about that, because you fucking rode the I'm a woman fucking train all the way to Downing Street. So, and yeah, I mean, for Liz Truss, a bona fide, and I'm going to say it, I know it's not very politically correct, but I mean this in the medical sense, a bona fide retard to be commenting on anybody else's, not that again, stop clocks right twice a day, not that I think that she's wrong, because Kamala Harris is, but it's fucking hilarious. Liz Truss, give me a break. And this is the thing which she was referring to with her race. So Kamala Harris's parentage is, she has an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, and she has always been identified, and I'll show you just on the screen here. A little headline from, where did I put it? Let me just see. Where the hell is it? Anyway, maybe it's on my Instagram. No. Did I put it somewhere else? Basically, when she attained political power, her bio read Indian, like the first Indian woman to become AG and all this sort of stuff. No, I don't think I saved it. Bollocks. So she's always identified as being, self-identified as being Indian. But now she's being sold to the rest of us, to the world, as black. And here's a video from Aaron Mate. Hopefully it
So that's what they start to do.
Right.
That's what they start to do. They did it then, they will do it now. You know, people have said, if you look at, for example, the heat that ended up around the bend the knee and Colin Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm.
Many smart people have said it actually was not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Russian bots started taking that on.
Russian bots.
Really?
Yes.
You feel like you're being targeted by Russian bots now?
Well, we already know we are.
Yeah, of course they are. The Russians did it. No, I can't see the little thing that I had bookmarked. I don't know what I've done with it. It's gone. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, there you go. That's how Kamala Harris is. An absolute fucking delight. I'm sure you'll agree. Nightmare of a woman. And by the way, her own father fucking has disowned her. But yeah, so there you go. She never she never identified as a black woman. She was raised, there's her family, she was raised as an Indian woman. And apparently in American politics, it's better to be a black woman than an Indian woman. I don't know why. I'm not from there. More kudos, I guess. I don't know. Maybe cooler. I don't know. But she is a bona fide monster, and yeah, disaster. And you have to understand as well that the Trump versus whoever it is, it's Kamala Harris. They hate Trump. There's various reasons. So, what Harris represents is a status quo remaining. So, all the various politicians across the both parties, what they represent is stability for the institutions that own those politicians. Donald Trump is just as bad, but he's maybe 3% a little less worse than the Democrats. So he's going to loan Ukraine the money instead of give it to them. He may not start World War III with China. That's what we're talking about here. Very little differences. Although starting World War III with China is a massive difference, and enough of a one, I would suggest, that would be it would get people to vote for him. But Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Marco Rubio and George Bush and all these people, they all represent the status quo. They represent stability. The markets know what they're going to get with those people. The institutions and the corporations that own America know what they're going to get. They know they're not going to get any shock to the system. Donald Trump represents a potential shock to the system. That is why they will try to. That assassination attempt was either let happen, extreme incompetence, or a plot by the deep state to do it. One or the other, one of the three. I suspect it was probably incompetence, but if it was at this stage, if it was proven to me that it was a plot by the deep state, I wouldn't be one bit fucking surprised. So that's what Kamala Harris is. The fact that she's fucking hated by the electorate, people cannot stand this woman. The black population and the black voterage in the US don't vote for her. She's very, very low favourability ratings across all demographics. She presents really, really bad. Like Hillary Clinton, she gives people the ick. But no one else is going to run against Trump because everyone knows that Trump's going to win. So they can't get anyone else to run against them. They don't want to waste their opportunity in 2028. They don't want to waste this opportunity. They don't want to spend any capital that they have now. They'd rather wait to 2028 to have a go at the presidency. When Trump's not going to be there because he'll have served 2 terms, so that's him done. So you see how it works. Anyway, so there we go. So let's move on. We're going to talk real brief. Going to show you Lough Neagh. What's happening with Lough Neagh. Now, see if I can find the article. Yeah. Put this on the Facebook page. So I was on the news. So we'll play you the report on the news. Check it out. So what happened was, I got asked a few weeks ago to go and talk about the Lough for a news report on UTV. So the Save the Lough campaign, of which I'm a minor member. I'm not one of the main organisers. I just turn up and help out when I can, with what I can. They contacted me and said, "Can you come down and talk to the press about this at the UTV?" Because is there other people that are better qualified to do it? No one else could do it. They were all busy. So the ball was thrown to me. I lifted it, ran with it, and I did the thing, and I got about 3 seconds of airtime, as you know. So, which is fine by me. So they phoned me up. UTV just rang me directly the other day because they had my number, and they said, "Can you come down?" Because the minister has made an announcement about his 37-point plan, which has now been basically signed off on, and it's going to happen at committee, at executive level. So I was like, right, okay, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't realise that had happened. So I got asked to talk. So instead of talking to the points, I just waffled, and they used loads of my fucking waffling. So check this out. Let's see if I can get this running for you.
It's back, and there's no denying there is a problem. The emergence of blue-green algae last year was far from a one-off. There's no quick fix. Action now is expected to take years to have a real effect.
This is a generational problem we have. We're facing fine words aren't going to do anything, and plans aren't going to do anything. Action is the only thing that's going to fix this, and it's going to, even if we sprung into action today and did everything that was needed, it's 20 years before we fix this. So it's the start of it. We're not going to get overexcited, and we're going to keep the pressure on. We'll have to.
Part of the long-term plans here are around who owns Lough Neagh. The current owner, the Earl of Shaftesbury, would like to see it transferred to some form of charity or trust. He had what was described as a constructive meeting with the minister yesterday. Campaigners here, though, are keen to get moving with the plans.
We can't just keep using this as an open sewer, which is what we've been doing. It's a disgrace. And until we fix that, we need to stop everything that we're doing. Dredging, pumping of nitrates, farm runoff, everything needs to stop. Because this is only going to get worse. If that algae gets any thicker, you're going to be able to walk across that loch in the summer. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. So there we go. Pretty happy with that. I don't think, whenever you do these things, I don't feel personally qualified to be a representative of that group. There are people that are much better placed than me, but nonetheless, I think I came across quite well, and I've got so many people that have come up to me. And I've been a musician for 20 fucking years or more, and yeah, it's a struggle to get the attention that you desire, that you need for your career. But I do that on the news, and I've had people come up to me in the street. "Oh, they saw you on the news. It was class. You were brilliant. Well done." So it was nice, but yeah, go and buy my record. So here is an update on it. So this is Save the Lough's statement on Andrew Muir's 37-point plan. So they put this out the next day after they had an opportunity. Like, Muir had literally just that morning, that an hour before, 2 hours before, announced that this 37-point plan, which is why UTV rang me. So Save the Lough campaign then had a day to look at what he was proposing, what he was trying to do. So, statement on the Lough Neagh action plan. Our analysis of the executive approved action plan is that it is heavy on education, voluntary measures, and talk of further consultations, but very weak on actual regulation and concrete action. That word, action, to immediately tackle the pollution through reduction of nutrients entering the catchment, which is basically what I said, right? The most concerning is a lack of information on the changes to the ownership model, which impedes progress and public input into the governance, and the fact that there is no commitment to bringing an end to the disastrous going for growth, intensified agri policy, which the 5 main storming parties approved. Similarly, there is nothing on the proper management of the loch, rights of nature status, investment in sewage infrastructure, or even an independent environmental protection agency. Despite a positive media outing, the plan is nowhere close to bringing the urgent changes in management, policy and regulations needed to save Lough Neagh. We have called for a moratorium on sand dredging, while the effects on the health of Lough Neagh can be carried out. This too was ignored. The minister professes to take a science-based approach, and yet is clearly set to continue the pollution as a policy rather than seeking to rein it in. This lacklustre action plan may prove to be the final nail in the coffin for Lough Neagh. And that's very, very sad. It falls far short of what's actually needed. And this is the main organisers of Save Our Shores, Save Lough Neagh. This is what they say. So this is Mary O'Hagan. She's a fantastic, formidable Irish woman. It falls far short of what's actually needed in many areas. When will we get an independent environmental protection agency? Where are the targets for reduction of sewage going into our rivers and slurry runoff into the loch? Where's the actual investment into research? Mary O'Hagan and James Orr from Friends of the Earth. When the loch is crying out for transformational change, we are being offered a plan that is business as usual. And if a just settlement for Lough Neagh is going to happen, we need to get rid of the going for growth, invest in sewerage, and deliver an independent environmental protection agency. James Orr, Friends of the Earth, and Mark McShawn from People Before Profit. The plan lacks any commitment to reverse the decision to slash financial penalties on polluters. This, coupled with an absence of agri-policy shift from going for growth or investment in sewage treatment and water infrastructure, would suggest that pollution will continue to plague Lough Neagh. And finally, John Barry from Queen's University Belfast. The action plan is short on tangible actions, full of weak, vague and general language. I am disappointed that the Minister and his department have not requested help from ourselves, from our local universities. We should be involved in contributing our time and expertise to reversing the ecocide of the loch. Ecocide, well, I'm not happy to use that word, but that's a very important word. So, there we go. Growing for Growth, as you know, real quick, was introduced in 2012 by Edmund Poots, which is hilarious that man was an environment minister. And it basically intensified industrial agricultural practices around the loch and is often referred to, certainly by me, as a polluter's charter. If you could afford to pay the fine, have at it, is basically the outcome of the Growing for Growth strategy, because Northern Ireland is agri-food sector is significant, and it is significant. So just on that, the final little slide here from Save Lough Neagh, Going for Growth was a mistake, from Andrew Muir himself, and then Save Our Lough, Save Our Shores, then why was it not in the action plan? And will the parties who supported it U-turn? Going for Growth was wrong at its conception, incentivising pollution, and continues to wreak havoc on our environment. Why doesn't the action plan commit to undoing this disastrous agri-policy once and for all? And now that the Minister has U-turned on supporting the initiatives, will the parties, including his own, who supported Going for Growth, do the same? And Sinn Féin Alliance, the DUP, Ulster Unionists and the SDLP all supported the Going for Growth policy. And the Going for Growth policy has turbocharged the problem. It has turbocharged the pollution that is going into the loch, that has led to this terrifying algae bloom that has the potential to kill not just your dogs and swans, humans as well. So finally on that, Climate Camp Ireland is happening in Ardbow in Tyrone, the 7th to the 11th of August, and I will be playing at that with my band, Laura Kerr, Summer McGibbon, Joseph Toman and Zachary Troughton. It's going to be our first appearance officially as Madre Rua. That's the name of our band, Madre Rua. It's not going to be me with other musicians, it's Madre Rua as a band. We're going to be playing at this, so get involved. You can, it's Slí Ella, Action for a Planet Beyond Capitalism. And just finally, the final point on this for today is I did an analysis on Andrew Muir as a liberal and what are his politics, what outcomes are his politics likely to have for the Lough. And it's just a few weeks ago, and I basically said, because Andrew Muir is a liberal, he believes in capitalism, he cannot fix this. Capitalism cannot fix this. Capitalism is what's caused this. And a capitalist solution to this capitalist problem is no solution. And that's why it's going to be based. You can see the Lough Neagh Action Plan statement from Save Our Shores and Save Lough Neagh. Every one of them mentioned the going for growth and it being the problem. That is a capitalist incentive, is a capitalist scheme to make money. And you can see there on the screen, talk of further consultation, but very weak on actual regulation. That's what it is. So there's 37. It's very mealy-mouthed. And I predicted this a few weeks ago, and so it's come to pass. This is the way it's going to go. We're going to expect these industries to regulate themselves. That's what's going to happen here, unless we do something about it. And sorry, I said finally. This is finally my final point. We're now, as a part of the campaign, we're now very concerned that the Earl, who has indicated he would like to give the Lough back to a charity or some other group like that to be managed by them. We're now terrified that that charity is being teed up as the Lough Neagh Partnership. The Lough Neagh Partnership have absolutely no business in this. They should have no business in this. They're the cause of this. The Lough Neagh Partnership masquerade as a well-meaning group looking to manage Lough Neagh in the interests of Lough Neagh. They do no such thing. They have a couple of things that they do, go out and count birds and bird hides, and you go onto their website. It's very nice and all. Do I have it? Yeah, there's it there. There's managing Lough Neagh. This is what we do. Da da da. And you can go. There's a wee live stream of some birdies. It's really nice, isn't it? And it's really cool. And there's a wee live stream. You can watch it on YouTube of some turns and things like that. Well, very important stuff. This organisation is run by and for all the extractivists, all the people that take out of the Lough, and that is their priority. That is their priority. Capitalism cannot fix this. Capitalism is the cause of this. Capitalism will use this resource until it is exhausted, and then it will move on. That is what the Earls handing this over represents. That's the start of the end of the resource. The Earl is reputational damage or some other metric that he has in mind has caused him to say, right, okay, I want rid of this. This is a headache. People pulled out of his bullshit festival at St Giles's House in Dorset over what's going on in Lough Neagh. Some speakers that were due to, environmentalists that were due to speak at the hippie fucking yoga fest. And I guess, I'm guessing that him being called out, he doesn't like it very much. And so he's done that. But what that represents, if he was making significant money off of this, or if he didn't see that the end is coming, he wouldn't have given that up. He hasn't given it up yet. You don't get a round of applause from me for that. So we're now terrified that Lough Neagh Partnership is the organisation, when they're talking about charities, that they're looking to take it over, to run it. They're the ones, and they shouldn't be. Emerson's are on the board of this. They fund this. Emerson's are the people, well, they've been bought over, but they're the people that are doing the sand dredging. So we have absolutely no faith that Lough Neagh Partnership are fit and proper. The conflict of interest is insane with these guys, and they shouldn't be allowed anywhere near it. This should be given back to the public It's just like who owns a mountain, who owns it. It's owned by the public, and we'll deal with this through democracy. We will vote our politicians in and out depending on what they think we should do with this lock. For me personally, this is top of the ticket issues for me. Like, number one, it's why I'm in People Before Profit. It's why I joined People Before Profit. I said if some party starts representing for the lock, I will back them. And it's people. For me, it's People Before Profit. That's why I joined. It's literally why I joined. And so there we go. I said I'm going to finish, so I'm going to finish. So that's nice and tidy. We're all done. Bada. Going to end it now. So there we go. Another podcast in the bag, ladies and gentlemen. That one's going to be about an hour and a half, I think. So yeah. So if you want to support the project, head over to Patreon, politics, culture, and some other shit, and lend me your support, or give me your support at £1 a month, one tier only. Otherwise, like, share, and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter, where I try to avoid getting into fights and arguments with people, despite it being almost impossible sometimes. But yeah. Some people go on Twitter just to fight. You do know that, right? Bye.